This is Mattel's 1982 release, Shark Shark, for the Intellivision game system. And as you can see, it has some beautiful artwork on the cartridge box, though the labels on Intellivision games are rather sparse. For whatever reason, they usually opted for a text-only of the actual cartridge label. Here we have the gamepad inserts for the keypad, and those overlays. You only really use the top three buttons, number 1, 2, and 3, and they are for darting. I'll get into that with the gameplay. Here we have some screenshots of the graphics and the instruction manual over there. I should note that this game is 1 or 2 player, and the 2-player mode is simultaneous play. And that's the real strong point of this game, is playing a friend in Shark Shark. It's a good time to compete against each other for the fish. Now let me get into what's going on here. You, as player 1, control that yellow fish in the middle of the screen. It's moving all around. And the object is to eat anything that's smaller than you, which is a easy concept, and it's a lot of fun. The whole while you're avoiding fish that are bigger than you, and that pesky shark that just got me. So you rack up points by eating things, and once you hit 1,000 points, at 1,000 point increments, you grow one size bigger, and you can eat bigger stuff. Those things at the bottom of the screen jumping around are, one's a lobster, and they have a crab that comes by once in a while. And you can eat them, but they're rather difficult. You have to eat them when they're falling back to the ground after they jump, which is rather tough. But as the levels progress, they jump higher, so it gets a little easier to eat them. Now, you might have noticed by now that this game is rather sparse in sound effects. There's some bubbles on the screen, and those bubbles, if you swim through them, actually slow you up a bit and they foul you up. So you want to avoid them. You get kind of tangled in the bubbles. And there's an ominous tone that plays when the shark enters the screen. And there's a little blip noise that's made when you eat a fish, or a fish eats you. Otherwise, there's no real sound in the game. There's no soundtrack per se until the end of the game, but we'll get to that later. Now, on the overlay, like I showed you earlier, there are 3 different dart speeds, 1, 2, and 3. And I could not discern the difference between either of them, any of them, 1, 2, or 3. They all seem to do pretty much the same thing when I tested them out. But I did notice that the darting worked sporadically. I couldn't tell if it was just a bad button on the keypad of the Intellivision controller, or if there's some kind of rhyme or reason to it, like you only get like 3 darts per life or something. I couldn't figure it out. It didn't seem to be the case. That's what I thought at first, but then playing later on, I managed to dart like 4 or 5 times in one life, and then it just stopped working. So I don't know if there's some kind of timer or something. I don't know. I couldn't figure that out. The other thing about gameplay I'd like to note is the buttons on the side of the Intellivision controller. When you press them in, you stop swimming. So you kind of like hold your position in the water, which can be effective because if you don't use that button, you kind of just drift in the general direction slightly in whatever way you were traveling. Oh, and I'd like to mention that while you can't eat the shark, you can nip at his tail, and that gives you a lot of points. If you bite his tail, it stuns him for a second, but you got to get out of the way really quickly after you do that because he'll turn around and eat you really quickly. So it's a good way to rack up points if you're quick on the draw. Shark Shark reminds me of a game someone recently downloaded from Xbox Live, and that's called Feeding Frenzy. It has a lot of the same fundamental elements as Feeding Frenzy. It's a rather relaxing kind of game to play. You drift around and eat things smaller than you, and you grow in size. It's somewhat satisfying to play. Though in Feeding Frenzy there are achievement points you can get. There are no such achievement points on the Intellivision system. But you could always pretend there are. And if you get a high score, you could take a picture and hang it on your wall, and right underneath it, achievement point. And you can brag to your friends that you're the Shark Master. And here at the end we have a wonderful musical score. I wondered why they left it for the end, but it is does sound rather good for an early game. They should have left it in the beginning instead of the end, I think. Anyhow, I'm Dommy from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.